Have you ever noticed how people react when you say you're a cat person? There's always that one friend who laughs and says, "Oh, so you like being ignored?" Or, "You must be mysterious." Somehow, loving cats has turned into a personality test. But here's the interesting part: it kind of is. Not in the shallow, horoscope way. Not in the "cats mean you're antisocial" stereotype. But in a much deeper, more fascinating psychological way. Because the animals we're drawn to, especially the ones we choose to share our homes with, often reflect something about how our minds work, how we attach, how we regulate emotion, and even how we define love. So if you love cats, really love them, the quiet purring, the slow blinks, the random 3 a.m. zoom eyes, there's a reason. And it probably says more about your nervous system than you think. Let's start with something simple. Cats don't beg for love the way dogs do. They don't automatically assume you're their entire world. They're selective, independent, sometimes aloof. And yet when a cat chooses you, when it curls up beside you or headbutts your hand, it feels earned. That word is important. Earned. Psychologists talk a lot about attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant. And while it's way too simplistic to say, "cat people are avoidant," or "dog people are anxious," there's something about the rhythm of feline affection that resonates deeply with people who value emotional autonomy. Cats don't overwhelm you with need. They coexist with you. There's space in the relationship. And for many people, that space feels safe. Think about your own temperament. Do you recharge alone? Do you prefer one-on-one conversations over loud group settings? Do you find comfort in quiet presence rather than constant stimulation? Cats match that energy. They're not chaotic extroverts. They're subtle. Research from places like the University of Texas has found correlations between pet preference and personality traits. Cat lovers tend to score slightly higher in openness to experience, and sometimes introversion. They're often described as creative, reflective, independent thinkers. Not better. Not worse. Just wired a little differently. And that wiring matters. Your brain is constantly scanning for environments that feel regulating. Safe. Predictable. Cats operate on a kind of calm unpredictability. They're routine-driven creatures, but they don't perform for you. They're not trying to impress. And if you're someone who's sensitive to overstimulation, that matters more than you realize. Have you ever just sat next to a cat while it purrs? That low, vibrating hum? There's research suggesting that a cat's purr vibrates between 25 and 150 Hz, a frequency range associated with healing and tissue repair. Now, I'm not saying your cat is a furry chiropractor. But your body responds to that sound. Your nervous system slows down. Your breathing softens. It's co-regulation. We often think of co-regulation in human relationships, how a calm partner can settle your anxiety. But animals do this too. Especially animals that don't demand emotional performance from you. A cat doesn't care if you had an awkward meeting. It doesn't need you to be upbeat. It just curls up and exists. And maybe that's part of the magic. There's no social script. Let's go a little deeper. Loving cats often means you respect boundaries. Because if you don't, a cat will teach you. Quickly. You can't just grab and squeeze and expect compliance. You learn to read subtle cues, the flick of a tail, the angle of the ears, the slight shift in posture. You become attuned. That attunement is a psychological skill. It's empathy without intrusion. It's closeness without control. It's understanding that love isn't possession. In a world where so many relationships are about performance, replying fast enough, being available enough, proving enough, cats offer a different template. "I'm here," they seem to say. "But I'm still me." And if that resonates with you, it might be because you, too, value individuality inside connection. There's also something beautifully honest about cats. They don't fake enthusiasm. If they want affection, they show it. If they don't, they leave. There's no pretending. For people who are sensitive to emotional manipulation or inconsistency, that straightforwardness feels grounding. It's strangely reassuring to be around a creature that doesn't gaslight you. You know where you stand. Now let's talk about independence. Culturally, we romanticize hyperconnection. We praise clinginess as loyalty. We equate constant communication with love. But psychologically, healthy attachment includes differentiation, the ability to stay yourself while being close to someone. Cats embody differentiation. They don't dissolve into you. They don't lose themselves in the relationship. They nap in the sun. They explore. They come back. If you love that, maybe part of you craves relationships that feel the same way. Not suffocating. Not chaotic. Just steady and chosen. And here's a slightly provocative thought. Sometimes people who love cats deeply understand what it's like to feel misunderstood. Cats have a reputation problem. They're called cold, selfish, unloving. And yet anyone who's had a cat sit beside them during a hard night knows how untrue that is. Their affection is quiet, but it's real. If you've ever felt mislabeled, too quiet, too independent, too in your head, you might feel an unconscious kinship there. A kind of, you get me. Psychology calls this projection sometimes. We see parts of ourselves in what we love. Not consciously, but subtly. And then there's the control piece. Dogs are often more trainable, more eager to please. Cats? Not so much. Loving a cat requires surrender. You can't micromanage their personality. You can't force devotion. You accept the terms of engagement. That can be deeply therapeutic for people who struggle with control. Because you learn that love doesn't grow from pressure. It grows from safety. There's also the sensory element. The softness of fur. The warmth on your lap. The rhythmic kneading. For people who process the world intensely, who are highly sensitive to sound, texture, energy, cats offer a kind of tactile grounding. It's mindfulness disguised as a pet. You're stroking fur. But what you're really doing is regulating your cortisol. And let's not ignore the humor. Cats are absurd. They knock things off tables while maintaining eye contact. They fit into boxes that defy physics. They sprint across the house for no visible reason. Loving cats often means you appreciate subtle comedy. Not slapstick. Not loud punchlines. But dry, understated chaos. That appreciation says something about cognitive style. You notice small details. You find meaning in nuance. You don't need constant spectacle to be entertained. Now, none of this means that if you love cats, you're introverted, emotionally intelligent, and spiritually evolved. Let's not get dramatic. Humans are complicated. Pet preference is just one thread in a much larger tapestry. But it is a thread. And it often connects to how you define love. Is love loud and constant? Or is it quiet and steady? Is love about being needed every second? Or about being chosen again and again? When your cat jumps onto your lap, it's not because it can't survive without you. It's because it wants to be there. And that kind of voluntary closeness feels different. There's power in being chosen. If you grew up in environments where affection was inconsistent or overwhelming, you might find comfort in the predictability of a creature that has clear signals. A cat won't smother you. It won't emotionally flood you. It meets you where you are. And maybe that's what your brain has been looking for all along. Not intensity. Not drama. Just attuned presence. There's also research suggesting that interacting with pets increases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and decreases stress. But what's fascinating is that with cats, the bonding is often built slowly. Through routine. Through trust. Through repeated gentle interactions. That slow build mirrors secure attachment more than we realize. Consistency over spectacle. So if you love cats, maybe you value relationships that aren't built on grand gestures, but on small, repeated acts of care. The quiet cup of tea. The shared silence. The soft blink across the room. You don't need fireworks every day. You need reliability. And here's something beautiful. Loving a cat often teaches patience. You can't rush trust. You can't demand affection. You wait. You show up. You create safety. And over time, something blooms. That lesson transfers. Into friendships. into romantic partnerships, even into how you treat yourself. Because maybe, on some level, the reason you love cats is because you're learning how to love in a way that honors boundaries, autonomy, and calm. Not desperate love. Not performative love. Just steady, chosen love. And in a world that constantly pushes us toward noise, urgency, and emotional extremes, choosing something quiet is almost rebellious. So the next time someone jokes about you being a cat person, you can smile. Because maybe what they're really pointing at is your capacity for nuance, your respect for space, your appreciation for subtlety. Maybe it means your nervous system values calm over chaos. Maybe it means you understand that affection doesn't have to be loud to be real. Or maybe you just genuinely enjoy a tiny predator who occasionally screams at walls. Human psychology is layered like that. There's science. There's personality. There's history. And then there's simple preference. But I think there's something poetic about the fact that so many people who love cats also value inner worlds. Reflection. Emotional depth. Cats are creatures of stillness and sudden movement. Of independence and intimacy. Of distance and devotion. Sound familiar? If you love cats, I'd be curious, what do you think draws you to them? Is it the calm? The boundaries? The quiet companionship? Or something you can't quite put into words yet? Let me know. And if you enjoy unpacking the psychology behind everyday things like this, why we love what we love, why our brains latch on to certain patterns, stick around. There's so much more going on beneath the surface of your preferences than you've been told. And whether you're a cat person, a dog person, or just a person trying to understand your own wiring a little better, one thing is true: the things that comfort you aren't random. Your mind is always telling a story. Sometimes it just happens to have whiskers.